And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Corey Munson, coming to you live from Des Moines, Iowa. I'm joined, as always, by Aaron Castro in Arizona and Liam Poach in Salem, Massachusetts. Josh Fredlin is behind the camera, helping us out with moderation. He'll be in the comment section all night, so be sure to hit him up with your questions, comments, just general abuse. He loves it. So... yeah, guys. So there was a rugby game this weekend. Yeah, how you doing?
What rugby game?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I was watching rugby. I don't know what you guys were up to.
I was at a multi-day work conference.
Yeah, I was watching cribbage.
And if you watch the television coverage of that conference, you might have seen me somehow, apparently. Well, it was a long weekend. Just really got back to the house to an hour ago. We left San Diego a little bit later than we had planned, but that's okay. Had a good brunch-ish type thing. Well, I woke up this morning awful, like not crazy hungover. I think I've gotten this drinking thing down. I stayed with hard liquor on ice, except for the 3 shots of tequila I had. I know there are young people listening to this, so drink responsibly. I got dropped off at the bar, and then I Ubered back to my hotel, so there was no craziness going on. I am also 30, so drink legally. Okay, that's the other one. And it was Seawolves after party was a how would I put this? It was a whole cheap Hawaiian shirt party, basically because I don't know where Brad Tucker and Matt Turner would be able to find expensive matching shorts to go with their shirts if it wasn't off Amazon. If that makes any sense. So that was cool. That was really cool. Seeing
that whole scene just sounds like a trip.
Yeah. So that was cool. Hung out with the champs for the second year in a row after a big game. I didn't hang out with them last year after the big game. I hung out with them after the semifinal. They're a great group of guys to, share drinks with and stories with and just talk about things, talk about the season and just go in depth. And, it's I will say, it's really cool to find out when they talk to you, it's like, hey, we really appreciate what you do. I was like, because sometimes, we're very harsh and, for the most part, they don't care. The players on any team, at least in my experience, when we're, talking at a man-to-man level, they're just like, we appreciate that someone gives a shit to provide any kind of media coverage, because I was like, oh, wow, all right. So that was really cool.
I've been told along the same lines before. The most complaints I've ever the only complaints I've ever gotten was an original mispronunciation of Jason Fa'anaana Schultz's name on this podcast by myself, and that's pretty much the extent.
So, the game was a big deal. If you haven't caught the live preview that we did on Saturday, I directed that, which was a trip. If you've got any critiques, I've already got a notebook full of stuff that we will fix going forward when we do live previews next year. So don't worry. You can send me an email. Not a big deal. But I do know that we have some work-ons. But all in all, we were trying to produce more live preview type content for the fans' consumption, at least on the MLR side, and hope to be able to do that more this next season. Basically, 2020 started today, or really 2020 started yesterday after the Shield presentation for anyone that works at the league office and anyone who works for the league, or in Liam's case, it started 3 weeks ago. But yeah, it was that game. Oh man, I guess we'll get into it. But there are some.
Are we going to get into it? Do we have to talk about it?
Let's just say.
Let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Let's just say. Let's talk about. I will talk about the food I had this weekend. There is a restaurant that I went to a couple years ago when we went to watch the USA Women Eagles versus Canada, and it's in La Jolla. It's called Whisk and Ladle. It is a fancier place, but I will say that the service is the best. The first time we were late to our reservation, there ended up being, some wait for us to get to our table, and they brought by a flatbread, and I was like, no, we didn't order that. And, the manager comes back and says, we made you wait for your table, so this is on us. I was like, okay, all right. And then this time, maybe Liam would take offense to this. I don't know. Or maybe even Corey would take offense to this. But the bartender...
I am very offended right now.
Not the bartender, but the waiter sort of dissected the kind of cocktails I usually have based on the two I'd asked about. And he was like, I think you're more of an old-fashioned type of drinker. Is that kind of correct? If you're into the smoky spirits, that mezcal one is probably up your alley. It's like a Mexican sort of old-fashioned, and I was like, wow, okay, let's go with that. So that's
as long as you don't load your old fashions up with sugar. Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Yeah, it was. I have an extensive liquor collection. I don't drink a lot, but I just collect. It's weird, or maybe it's not weird. But enjoy fine things, and from time to time. So maybe I'll get into mezcal. For a while, I was trying to get into tequila when I was in the Army. My platoon sergeant was really into tequila. I'm a big bourbon guy, and I was trying to get into tequila at the time because it was El Paso, right? You're basically in Mexico. So, but yeah, great weekend, great game. We will dissect that. We will do a deep dive. I guess I'll cover that on the when we talk about the game. Really, the next point I was going to get, but Liam, you sort of covered the game in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was able to join a lot of the members of the New England Free Jacks at the Greatest Bar on Friend Street in Boston, which is literally across the street from the TD Garden. So, great location to have that watch party there. I gave some pregame and halftime, and allegedly I gave a postgame live video, as people tell me. Yeah, it was a really great time. It had a very Boston feel to it. A lot of the players brought their families to it. A few fans stepped in. In fact, there was even one guy at the bar. He was a student from Dublin, and he had played in a few of the leagues over there. Not at the highest professional level, obviously, but he was really impressed with the quality of play that the Legion and the Seattle Seawolves were able to put on display. He said it was obviously not up to Pro 14 or English Premiership type levels, but who would expect it to? Like you, Aaron, I definitely I definitely indulged on a few adult beverages. I am 24 years of age, not quite 30, but the hangovers are definitely slightly worse than
they're starting to get there.
They're starting to get there. However, I have gotten really good at drinking water when I go out to the bar now. So even if it's not after every other drink, maybe every 3 or 4 drinks, but definitely, I consume some water at the bar. And kids listening, always drink responsibly, like Aaron said, and having a glass of water at the bar after every 2 or 3 drinks, never a bad idea. Nobody notices, nobody judges you. I lost my wallet on the train home. I
So this shows that you like the fact that you got on the train shows that you definitely paid your tab because you like had your card with you so you can buy.
So I got on the train in Salem. Yeah, I got on the train in Salem like around 3 p.m. Got a round trip ticket, and I kept the tickets in my wallet. So like you said, I had my wallet getting onto the train to pull out the ticket, but I think that's where it may have been lost. I have a bad habit of like holding on to my wallet in my hand, even when I'm sober. It's just for some reason I just keep it in my hand after I use it, and that's how stuff tends to get lost. So, however, I think it was a good sign how much fun I had, and I was still able to remember the game to write about it for you fine people later on the day.
So.
Yeah, well, I guess I apparently was the only one not drinking this weekend. I'm the square of the show. It was a very special weekend, and so thank you to Major League Rugby, the league, and to the teams for bringing us in on this, and not only giving us a very entertaining time, but giving us something to talk about here on Monday. So real quick, I just want to, before we get too far into the show, give a quick note of explanation. So you guys may have noticed, if you're following us on social, the last few days, or starting today on Monday, and then it'll continue this week, only this week, we are asking you guys to chip in and help us out a little bit with the show. So no matter what happens this week, Earful of Dirt is going to keep going along. We're going to keep doing what we do. What we're saying is it costs a decent amount of money to go ahead and keep this show online and keep it going out to the podcast platforms. Fortunately, YouTube is nice enough not to charge us, but everybody else does. So we'd appreciate a few bucks if you guys have $1 or $2, 20, 100, 5,000, whatever you guys have available. If you want to throw a couple bucks our way, it is only going to be used for web hosting and for basic show operation stuff. Nobody's going to get rich off this. Nobody's going to be making money off this. We're just going to pay for our hosting.
We will not be buying any whiskey or any kind of other alcohol with your funds.
I mean,
I promise.
We have enough expenses when it comes to the show, unless a generous benefactor, like Corey said, 5,000. But if someone dropped 5,000.
I would wear a shirt with your face on it every single week.
I'd probably I'd probably do. So Paul Santinelli, we're gonna talk about that, but he's willing to cut off his mane, okay, if they raise $50,000 for the U.S. Women Eagles. So I would do some type of haircutting for you. If someone gave us $5,000, and yes, it would not. No one would get paid off of that. We are looking for sponsorships, so if you are not really willing to donate, but you want to look at us commercially, we are always looking for sponsorship to fund this show as well. So there you go.
Yeah. So you can get involved by going to our social medias. So Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. You can go to our website at earfulofdirt.com, or you can just email us at earfulofdirt@gmail.com for more information. We're using PayPal, and we're just trying to get a hold of about $250 to handle the cost of hosting the show for the next 12 months. So this is not a big deal one way or another. We're still going to keep doing what we're doing, but we sure would love it if you guys got involved and helped us keep doing what we're doing. And a quick shout out to our first contributor. Jeff jumped in right away tonight and has already thrown a little bit into the kitty. So thank you so much, Jeff. We really appreciate your support, and you're the reason that we're doing this stuff. So
it's all for you, Jeff. Specifically you, Jeff.
Exactly. So thank you so much. All right, let me get ready. Take care of the basic intro, and then we can get on with the show. For those of you new to the podcast, Earful of Dirt, we do this every single Monday night. We discuss news, rumors from Major League Rugby, which is the United States Professional Rugby Union. It's a chance for us to look at the issues, hear from the league, players, team leadership, and to check in with our friends from across the U.S. rugby scene. With that said, Aaron, what we got coming up on the show this week?
The Seawolves, definitely not kings in the North. They are kings of all of it.
Of
All
Major League Rugby.
Of Major League Rugby.
Back-to-back champs.
Yes, they are from the north. Don't get me like. It was interesting talking to Phil Mack. You know, he talked about how this was. It was still a win for Canada too, because of how many Canadians they have on their team. So that was kind of an interesting storyline. But yeah, they are the kings of North America, and they are, I think. Well, I'll get into that part because it's cool color commentary when we get to that. New York is ahead of the curve. You know, it was rumored and then sort of announced that Mathieu Bestereau was coming to the Big Apple. They held his signing ceremony, I believe, at the forget what Hotel McGregor, I think it was. Maybe I got that wrong, but they did have a small event at the French consulate in New York as well. And you know, questions from Bob sort of to end the season. I think we may come back next week or the week after the 50-man roster for the USA Eagles for the preliminary World Cup squad came out. We could throw some stuff in next week about that because it really deserves its own time because it's a big squad of many deserving players and some questions. But we'll try to keep it tight tonight. Well, actually, it won't be that tight because we're going to do a deep dive. There you go.
We're already 10 minutes over, like the scheduled time on the script. So yeah, no, that's out the window.
Fantastic.
I have my ass sitting on a pillow right now, getting comfortable. I have a delicious gas station brownie that I'm just gonna be slowly nibbling on. Yeah, it ain't tight tonight, baby.
All right, so I think we've screwed around enough. Let's go ahead and get into the game. So here it is.
I got brownie crumbs all over my bed.
Liam, just oh my God, just do something with yourself. Seriously. Okay. Major League Rugby Season 2 wrapped up on Sunday night Sunday afternoon, I guess, technically, with just a heck of a game. And I mean, can you ask for a better way to appear on national broadcast television? CBS proper, not ESPN Plus, not CBS Sports Network, not, third tier, somebody put a website up and now we're going to show rugby.
Not 29 News.
Yeah.
Channel9news.com, whatever the hell.
Not Facebook Live, frickin' CBS. Live on Sunday afternoon, right, just beamed across the whole damn nation. They watched Seattle beat San Diego 26-23. Can you believe it?
Can you dig it?
Aaron, talk to us, my friend.
All right, so this I mean, I'm gonna piss some people off today, but it's all good.
So this is different than an average day. How?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, neither the San Diego fan base nor the Seattle fan base is known as a particularly rabid or vociferous fan base, are they? I don't.
Apparently,
yeah.
they. I mean, if anyone followed Twitter over the weekend,
yeah, they don't hold any grudges.
Yeah, well, not even grudges. There was some. I mean, we won't talk about that, but y'all, you continue to complain about Americans booing. You're just gonna piss the Americans off.
I got 99 reasons why it's not a problem.
So, wow. So the balls on Joe Peterson. What are they?
Globos Maximos.
They're like basketball size.
Swollen.
How does he kick with those things hanging between his legs? I don't know.
Oh, Jesus.
He made some great tactical decisions in this match, and then some also that I guess you could say ended up costing them part of the game. When you do an aggregation of all the inflection points, but those penalties, that drop goal, to where it was like Liam will talk about some of the timeline stuff there, But at the end of the day, they were up 4 points, and they got possession back, and it required a turnover and a try for Seattle to win, which they did do, but we'll get there. There are some things overall I do want to get through before we actually laud the Seawolves, because, man, they earned that, but sort of how it happened in fashion for San Diego, how they lost this game. For the most part, there's only been one team in this league this year to be able to win games with more turnovers and more penalties than their opposition, and that was San Diego, being the most penalized team in the league. The difference here, though, is in general, Seattle became, I think, although at the beginning they were leading the league in penalties like through the first 4 games, they actually cleaned it up to the point where they were the most disciplined team in the league. But for this, let's just talk about turnover ratio. I think the only other team that had the amount of turnovers that San Diego had or more was Glendale, and they finished 6th in the league. The 14-10 turnover ratio, 4 of those turnovers, which they had 5 of those turnovers last week against New York, they paid dearly. They lost 4 balls at the breakdown against Seattle that were unforced turnovers. Think about that. How does that, especially with where they lost the ball? They lost the ball when they were 2 of them really good attacking possessions, and then Seattle was able to either score or burn 10 minutes off the clock. Then we'll get into penalties. Surprisingly, and this has a lot to do with how Scott Green managed the game, 5-4 in favor of the Seawolves. Scott really, and people have a lot to say about how he called the game. I don't know why, especially if you're a victor and in a final, you should probably not care about how the game was called, because you just got a second ring. So I had a discussion with one of the Seawolves fans this weekend on Sunday night about that, and it was just he's like, I don't understand why people are not just rejoicing and being glad that they pulled something off that no team in Seattle has ever done, which is win 2 back-to-back championships in a North American Major League. And I think I said this. So that was kind of sort of a disheartening thing for me to see. Were there some calls that Scott Green missed? Sure. We had a TMO, and they missed a huge call that where I think it would not have changed the game overall, but one of the things that San Diego wasn't able to do is, if you look at the statistics, they, Joe Peterson, he had a good game, but he didn't have a Joe Peterson game on a specific standard. One of those games that he has, usually he'll put up 70, 80 meters carried. He'll get 10 tackles. He got 2 in this one. They didn't miss a whole lot of tackles. In fact, both teams didn't miss a whole lot of tackles. Both teams missed under 20. Liam will talk about the ratio a little bit. Defense overall, really good in this game. San Diego, I thought, played really good defense in the first 20 minutes, and then they played adequate defense the rest of the way. What happened was the seawall. We thought it was gone in parts of the season, and then incrementally, they've started to build it back up. And defensively, the playmakers for Seattle got it done. Offensively, yeah, they definitely got it done. We'll talk about that. But I guess one of the ones that I would like to – so we talk about turnovers at the breakdown. That's what led to, that kick to touch in the corner. But how we got there was, hey, they turned over the ball right there. But the final tackle that gave them that penalty was a high tackle by JP Duplessis. And, a guy that's just been so good for them. They just needed to tackle correctly, and they probably would have been able to make it. But To an extent, both teams had been getting away with high tackles because if you look at the penalty count, there was only 3 high tackles called in this game overall. So, and that has a lot to do with just letting the game flow and managing the game rather than, trying to take over the game, just facilitate the way. And I would say the refs did not get in the way of rugby in this game. You sort of saw it last week against New York, but one of the things that they didn't do was they didn't hammer enough. Like against New York, they hammered and hammered and hammered until they broke that defense, and that's how they were able to win at the end. And in this one, mostly because they kept turning the ball over, they weren't able to continuously hammer the Seattle defense. One of the things, even like in attack, if you look at how the San Diego defense played, some of their defensive playmakers, Jasa Varamalua didn't have a good game on attack or on defense. Like a bunch of JP Duplessis, usually he's, hitting 20 tackles. Jordan Manahara, Saul Moching, these guys weren't, they got neutralized somehow. And that has a lot to do with that game plan. If you look at these guys, Lou Stanfield, tackle machine, right? He had 4 tackles. Josh Furno, 9. Gus Varamalua, I said 2. I think it was 5. Saul Moching, only 8. Even Patty Ryan, who makes a lot of tackles, had 5. Ryan Matias, who tackles a lot, 7. And they just got neutralized. And I really haven't had a chance to rewatch the game because to give myself a different vantage point. But that is really how Seattle won this game. Was an inferior opponent wouldn't have been able to capitalize upon those turnovers that San Diego gave them. So there was a lot of questions. I mean, I posted this on Twitter. I didn't really post the law question. I just wanted to know how often Seattle practices this line out. So if you go and watch JP Smith score back, you got to watch it a bunch. I think that the TMO got the call wrong on this because JP Smith, not Duplessis, JP Smith started running before the ball came in, and where he was in the line out, no one had faded off the line out for Seattle, so they had more men in the line out. So that would be, I think, let me pull this up. Law 18.16. If a team elects to have a receiver, the receiver stands between the 5-meter and the 15-meter lines, 2 meters away from their teammates in the line out, but usually not where that is. And then participating players. So if the receiver comes in, they have to change places sort of before the ball is thrown. So he ran in before the ball was thrown and no one faded off, replacing him on the line as a receiver. And what does that mean? Well, that's just a penalty. And Joe Peterson gets a free kick and the ball goes back into possession for Seattle. So I think they got the call wrong, but I do not think that would have changed the game because the way the momentum was going, they were going to score with that ball in that half of in the eastern half of the end zone, the way they were driving. But I do think that was the biggest call of the day that you could say was gotten wrong. Now, you gotta be to get that call right. You have to know. And I think I've talked to a few refs and they're like, yeah, that's probably how I would have called it anyways. That's just, it was so fast Like you have to watch it over. I had to watch that play 20 times to get like the definitive. Did he start running before the ball was thrown? Because if the ball's thrown and their timing is perfect, which is the intent here, the ball's thrown and you get there, you get on the line after the ball's thrown, it's perfectly legal, and you disrupt the opposition so much, and they did, right? To where they can't tackle you and you score. So I think like that, the timing was, we're talking shaving hairs with the timing. But like I said, I don't think if they made the call correctly that it would have changed the result of this game the way Seattle were attacking, to the point. I mean, they get that kick to the corner, right? In the late in the second half, and they just sell out on that maul. They put 13 guys in that maul. And like the attacking wise, San Diego just wasn't able to do enough in the right part of the pitch, and that's how Seattle won. They did enough in the right part of the pitch to win the game. That's how close this game was. 3 points. What did you do in the right part of the pitch? That is the story of this game. And it my I was like this on national TV because Joe Peterson kicks that, and you're thinking, oh, wait, turnover. Oh, high tackle, kick to touch. Oh, well, it's over. Seawolves win. Like, you knew it was going to happen. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, no, that maul was coming. And, what you do in the right part of the pitch, it's kind of a metaphor for life if you think about it. Or I don't know, what about rugby can't be applied as a freaking metaphor to life? Anyway, for my spiel on this game, for most of the first half, I thought San Diego possession pretty well. The discipline issues that made them the most penalized team in the league, they hadn't shown up quite yet. They were saving most of it for the second half, and y'all know how that ended up. But however, if anything, it was Seattle in the first half who seemed to be getting in their way more often than not. I thought there was a lot of phases that seemed to just kind of end just as fast as they began, which in turn kind of ended up robbing them of a lot of early momentum. However, I've been saying this whole season that, Seattle is one of the most well-rounded units in the league. One thing I especially commend them for was utilizing the depth on their bench. They had 5 reserves seeing 20-plus minutes, one of whom, Eric Duchel, he only saw 18 minutes, but whatever. He ended up scoring the game-winning try out of the maul at 80 minutes, or so it is listed on the official stat report. Another observation I originally thought going into this game, I thought it was going to be a big kicking game. And despite there being a somewhat decent amount, it definitely wasn't a big factor as some of the tries that were eventually put down. As we saw, Joe Peterson began the night by taking the lead for the Legion, getting them out to a 6-0 lead before Stefan Coetzee opened up the scoreboard for Seattle with a try around the 20-minute mark. After that, the only scoring on the night for Joey P came with 2 conversions and what may have been an ill-timed drop goal. Personally, I think San Diego could have kept on the attack a bit more in that situation. They weren't that far out, and they had already proved capable of breaking through the seawall. I know in the Go Goal group, there was a little talk that, justified that kick. And, as Aaron explained too, they justified the kick by saying it forced Seattle to have to score a try. You see this all the time in football where a team goes up by 4 points. So now, and the commentators are like, oh, it's a touchdown or nothing. That's what it was. Unfortunately, the San Diego defense just wasn't able to prevent that. However, I just felt like by watching the tape, I thought a try was imminent, and I thought Joe may have jumped a little bit on that decision. However, from a championship spectacle perspective, I'm kind of glad he did it. It was definitely something that I wanted new rugby fans to see, because getting off a successful drop goal is always it always makes things interesting. The funny thing is, though, I expected Peterson to have a good game kicking, but I really expected Stoller to have a game kicking. especially with San Diego's aforementioned discipline issues. I just thought Seattle was going to get a ton of chances, and I thought that's how they were going to rack up all the score. That's how they were going to, eventually pull ahead. Instead, he just ended up slotting 2 conversions, I believe, and that was Brock Stahler's night kicking. For the head-to-head statistics, San Diego came away controlling 51% of possession, and as Aaron was talking about what you do in the right part of the pitch, San Diego had a 62% lead in territory. So that means Seattle, they made all, what would that be, 38% of their time in San Diego territory. They made it count. Seattle, just under 500 meters at 493 on the night, with an average meters per pass of 4.3. Seattle in that same metric, not too much better, 504 total meters accumulated with an average MPP of only 4.2. As Aaron mentioned, one thing that kept the Seattle Seawolves in this game was 14 total turnovers from the Legion, including losing not 1 but 2 crucial lineouts while position. In regard to the completed tackles, 89% for Seattle, 87% for San Diego, meaning guys really had to work to gain their ground, and that showed up with only 3 line breaks apiece to speak of for both sides. So that was a big effect on the game's overall pace. In regard to pace, not exactly what you call champagne rugby either. San Diego ended up coming away leading with a 53% quick ball rate, while Seattle only came away with a 33% mark in that area. But as this old saying goes, and it certainly applies here, slow and steady wins the race. As Aaron said, Seattle was able to get possession on a number of occasions and just kind of play that slow ball and kill the clock. And that's kind of what made San Diego run out of time in the end. It's great that they got that drop kick and they forced the need for a try from Seattle. But it was also in the same way that, if Seattle got that try, there was going to be no opportunity to answer. And that's exactly what happened.
Let's see. One of the craziest things, we've seen this in Major League Rugby this season before also, but one of the craziest things to see was that turnover in the maul that Seattle forced. And it was, that was impressive. Like, that maul was going, and then the ball comes
it's going the other way.
And it's going. It's going towards the they use try zone.
Were you about to say end zone?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I heard that I heard that subtle soft.
The guy called in the game was called the drop goal a field goal. So
Jesus.
There you go.
I remember one time, I was at SaberCat practice, and I was asking some question about camera placement, and I kept on calling the try zone the end zone,
or the end goal area. Technical term.
Yeah, Charlie Connolly was the first one to give me shit. He was like, "I'm sorry, Pouchy, what was that?" I was like, "The end zone. What was that? End zone. What was that? Oh shit, yeah, an in goal."
Bloody Americans.
So shout out to all the fans out there who had no issues with Scott Green. Thank you for being good people.
I was going to say you're good people.
You're good people.
But they're EOD fans, so of course they're slightly better than the average people.
But so that was.
Please donate.
That was a crazy one. That I thought was really. There were parts of San Diego's game going into this where you're like, they're gonna have to fix this. They're gonna have to fix this, and I guess.
Well, it's the whole pace of play that I was kind of surprised about. I thought that was going to be San Diego's, ultimate windfall over Seattle. Because we know Seattle likes to play a slow, methodical game, but I just kind of thought that with the championship lights on bright, San Diego might just be able to open up their offense a little bit more and break that seawall. Again, I thought Joe Peterson was going to have a bigger night kicking. Yeah, but that just wasn't the case. That 53% quick ball rate did.
What they were able to do to just neutralize playmakers, neutralize San Diego's playmakers to make it where, JP Duplessis has, under 80 meters made. A bunch of those forwards have under 50, and you're just wondering what the heck's going on. And that was the impressive stuff. really couldn't believe that. That's seawall defense. That's some great stuff. I was really impressed, and the physical intensity of this game. It was the physical intensity. Now, as far as the event was concerned, the event was off the chain. The Legion had
6,000 plus people, baby.
So the Legion, so you go into the plaza at Torero. The Legion had a bunch of food options when you're right there. If you wanted to,
food trucks. That's the way to do it, baby.
Yeah,
Food trucks.
So you had.
Well, once again, fans, there's a conversation going on in the sidebar that just proves we're the horrible people.
Yeah,
here.
I'm trying to lose weight too, man. But and then they had this they had this band. I forget what they were called, but they were like in those really short, like 1980s track shorts with like the really like 1980s track team tank top, and it was a cover band. They were funny, and then like a lot of the covers they replaced whatever like the key word was with rugby in it, so that was kind of cool.
Welcome to the hotel rugby,
something like
way
that.
better than the original song.
Yeah, and then like the entrance was really dope to where they announced like each individual player going in, like, and fireworks and fire and taking in like sort of in the European sense, in the European sense, taking young children out onto the pitch. For every single player got to held the hand of a little kid that plays rugby locally, which you see a lot in European games, giving it the championship feel, like giving those kids the something to look up to, which is really awesome. And like I don't know if any other team could have pulled off this awesome of an event. It was awesome. Like this is it. It was great. The standard. I mean, I thought last year's final was really good, but this blew, like, as far as like what San Diego Legion did as the host, like they blew it. And oh man, the game program. So I have somewhere in my house now. I have the MLR Championship Series or MLR Final flag. They had about 1,700 of those. They were giving those out, so that was cool. And San Diego Legion was giving out towels, so that's cool.
Aaron, do you know how many lead changes there were in this game? Because like I was just thinking, like, what made this game so exciting compared to last year, and I think it was.
I had this pulled up. Look at this.
Josh is telling me 3 in the sidebar, and I think that's correct.
I think it might be. Give me 1 second. There's
so there's the 2 Petersons penalties to begin the game. That's 6-0. Then there's Stefan's try. That's 7-6.
Yeah. So 3 lead changes.
Yeah.
They happened at the 22nd minute, the 64th minute, and the 80th minute. So there you go.
Yeah, no, so that's exactly what we want out of a championship game. Both teams had a chance. There's, a little volleying back and forth for both fan bases to cheer for. Yeah, no, that's absolutely the mark of a broadcast that hopefully broke 1 million.
I think we're so the overnight rating, which I haven't seen. I've only seen the excerpt from Sports Business Daily. I think it was 0.5, but I don't have. Yeah, that's it would be 3.4. So it would be 3 because you don't really. No one's in the lead at 0-0. So 0.4, I think that equates to something between it should be out tomorrow, like the full scorecard from Showbuzz Daily. They do a great roll up on ratings, and I think that means like 800,000. But I was on the ground. CBS guys were talking about it, and it was the second highest national rated broadcast of rugby in U.S. history, behind USA versus All Blacks in 2014.
Yeah, that's when they sold out Soldier Field, right?
Yeah. So think about that. Like that, as far as when you're comparing it to rugby, some people are like, oh, lackluster. CBS was all about it. They were all about it. Like that, they were like talking press releases, and that stuff will come out really soon, and we'll talk about how well it did, because it's a Father's Day event, and the major Father's Day broadcast is the U.S. Open. Like that's what a lot of dads in America watch with their sons, because we don't really watch too much golf in this country, or at least, I mean, we all watch the Masters. Come on now.
Yeah, but the Masters at this point is just like a drinking event with your friends. Are we just alcoholics, or like is that a thing? Like,
I don't. Well, I don't drink during the week, like ever. Well, yeah, I know what the ratings were for the U.S. Open. It was the highest rated thing on Sunday. So, what else was? I mean, really, really, there wasn't. I mean, it was an amazing game. That's really.
It was solid American rugby.
It was a great weekend. I cannot, nothing really to say about. So let's move along and get into I guess this tasty thing, or maybe it's a thing that eats tasty stuff.
Yeah, chocolat bleu.
Well, it's French, whatever it is. I think that's kind of what we're getting to. So yeah, the big signing news, because we're already talking about 2020, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Before the championship's even buried, yeah, we're on to talking signings. So Rooney welcomed their first signing for the next season, and Aaron, can you help me here, because I have no idea how to say this?
Matthew Bastereau.
So Matthew Bastard is joining Rooney.
Oh, God.
It's okay to make fun of them. They're French.
Liam, tell us a little bit about this guy. He's one hell of a unit.
So Matthew is a big dude. So he clocks in around 6'2", 270 pounds. I've been watching some of his highlights, and for a guy who clocks in at that size and that weight, he can move just as well as he can tackle. I think this is exactly the kind of guy who's going to put New York's attack over the top, assuming they retain some of their key pieces from this year. But they definitely needed a little bit more of a physical presence, particularly inside the 22, which is where I feel like they got stalled up a lot this season. And I think being able to finish certain drives like that without the need of a Cahill Marsh or Connor Wallace-Sims line break is going to do wonders for them. And that's a lot. He should be getting paid close to the league maximum on a contract.
So in the Martin Pengelly piece, he said what he was getting paid, just $45,000. Mm-hmm. That would set the market at max contracts for a non-player coach. Player coach salaries are, of course, a little bit higher than that, but holy moly, that is a lot of money. When you think about what the cap was this year, it was $450,000. So that's 10% of your cap. Is Matthew Bastereau that guy?
Is he going to score 10% of their points?
Maybe. I don't know. But interest. I mean, he'll be fun to watch. That I can guarantee.
So for some context, then this guy is a legitimate star. I mean, he has played professional in Europe.
We're talking about like a club captain from Europe, like a current club captain, a guy who is a key.
He's only 28, 27, 28.
I think he's 30. But still, like, he's like in his like prime right now. So this is sort of a rugby sabbatical, I guess. Exactly 30. he's a month and a half older than me. He's a big boy. But in his prime, you get a big name. Usually guys like this, if they're going to take some time off, they go to Japan and they play in the top league. And he's coming here because he wants America for some reason. Which is cool.
I'm trying to think of a comparison, like if an NFL player decided to go play in Canada. I'm trying to put to put this in a little bit in perspective. Like I don't want to say Antonio Brown, even though that they're the same age, but because that's a little that might be giving him a little too much credit. I would say like it's probably the equivalent if like Adam Thielen from the Minnesota Vikings went to play in the CFL.
Sexual feeling. No one gets that. All right, cool.
No. Well, I mean, I get it. I've heard the song, but but it's also just like born in 1995 too. So.
Oh gosh, you kids! It's ridiculous. You shouldn't be born in the 90s. You should be rocking out to Nirvana in the 90s. Yeah, man. Sorry.
Okay. Calm down. Go back to your box.
Real quick, live updates here. Quick shout out to John for throwing into the pot, for helping us out. So we've got 2 donations, Jeff and John tonight. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, John. We really appreciate it.
We'll continue shouting people out who donate too. This won't stop.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so let's look at this one more time. Let's go ahead and look at our successes and our failures as far as our predictions go. So this time around, we had 2 rounds of predictions. So first, we were going to guess the score, and then we had to come up with one more, whatever it was, to kind of just give us something to talk about. So first thing is the score line. The final score on Sunday was Seattle 26, San Diego 23. And when it came to it, when it was clutch time, I just got to say, I got it right. I got it right.
Right, finally.
Oh man, good for you. Good for you.
Just
to let you know, out of the 3,500 people, I think it was 3,426, but let's just round it up, right? That picked worldwide on Super Brew. Although I got this one wrong, I finished first in the world. Thank you.
And that's season long, right? That's the whole season. Yeah. Collectively, your Super Brew score was the highest or lowest, depending on how they count that.
You hacked something.
Well, the cool thing about all these games and the more professional everything is that it's sort of easier to project games in the second half. And the people who are really behind, like they reach for shit because especially
like
I saw this in my money pool. Like so like Corey's been reaching since like week 4 because he's been getting them really wrong. And so like at a certain point people like are so far behind they start reaching to try and gain ground. And if you're smart and you're ahead, you don't reach on picks because it's just like, it was weird. 84.
It's like I was gonna say like it's kind of like being in debt and you're just so in debt you're just like buying the $100 scratch tickets, being like this has got to be the next one.
That's about right.
Oh, it's depressing how real that talk is right there. Oh gosh.
Drink
okay.
responsibly and don't spend your savings on scratch tickets. All right, those are the 2 lessons we're giving you kids tonight from EOD.
So the scoreline predictions. Again, the final was 26-23 Seattle. Aaron, you had San Diego by 2. Liam had San Diego by 10, and I had Seattle by 10. So none of us got it right. And I suppose, actually, if you're doing an over-under by points, Aaron may have actually been the closest to correct up and... anyway.
Well, if you go to Vegas, the home team in football gets 3 points. I explained this on Twitter. I was like, So if you're really taking this handicap I'm giving you, you would, if you could get Seattle -1, like at amazing odds, you could have made a bunch of money. Because I think I talked to a bunch of people who are like Seattle fans. It's like, it's got to be San Diego by 7, right? And I was like, what? It's like, you guys think it's a converted try difference? You think like that's the call? And wow. And it was definitely, it was crazy. So yeah.
So that was the first round. The second round was, like I said, free for all. So we each guessed something different. Aaron, you said you thought there would be 20 penalties or more in the game, or 20
penalties or more. Yeah.
Okay. And how'd you do on that one?
Not even close. There were 11.
Okay. Liam, you had 1,600 collective meters gained, and that JP, one of the JPs, would be named
JP Duplessis.
Duplessis would be named MVP. How'd you do on your picks?
None of them were correct. Or actually, who was the MVP again?
So this took me like all day today to get. JP Smith was named MVP of the final.
Oh yeah, but I meant JP Smith actually. Yeah.
And Apasai Nakatini was named MVP of the championship series.
Okay. Interesting. And then my pick was that the game itself would get 1 million plus viewers on CBS. So, and that one is still yet to be determined. So I guess we'll find out. All right. I think that does it, guys, for game coverage. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before you shift to questions?
Something we didn't touch on in the set piece was the scrums for both teams.
100% completion rate on both sides.
Like if you were a scrummager, which I am, I did not. Wow, that was great. It was perfect. It couldn't get any better than that. When San Diego had some dominating scrums, and then Seattle had some dominating scrums, it was great stuff. Great stuff there.
Mm-hmm. I concur. Yeah, like I said, 100% completion rate in the scrum on both sides, and not a ton of restarts. Actually, I think there was less than 8 restarts. I totally lost that part of the stat page. But yeah, no, it was great work in the set piece.
All right. So questions from Bob. So as always, just want to point out that this is our regular question and answer segment. We get these mostly from our Reddit page, and that's reddit.com/r/MLRugby. So be sure to hit that up every Monday night and share your questions when we post that thread. So the first up is actually from Colin45 asking about broadcast numbers or viewership numbers. I think we've covered that one. So Colin.
So 0.4 rating. We don't know the number of I guess sustained viewers yet. So
yeah. We'll wait for that to come through. So kind of skipping past that one. British Ent asks, how badly did Scott Green want to push or start pushing in the Seattle game-winning maul?
Well, my answer is like at the 80th minute of a rugby game, and Scott Green was on that pitch all 80 minutes. He might not have been tackling and running with the ball, but it's certainly a workout. I wouldn't have wanted to do anything. I would have been content just to watch the maul and call the game. So I think Scott was. I think he probably wants to play every now and again, but I think he was good.
He is a number 8, so he probably wanted to rip off his blue jersey and put on the green and blue of Seattle and just do it himself, because that was new hotness.
And related, also from British Ent, the redheaded center for Seattle How many beers did he drink for blocking that offload counterattack from his teammate?
Georgie Barton, the freaking Cabbage Patch Kid, man. I told him this on Sunday night. I was like, if you are not starting every single game at outside center for Canada in the World Cup, I'm gonna have problems because, oh my gosh, he has been amazing.
Ooh, shoot the boot. That's all I have to say.
So,
All right. SD Yeti. I think he's a San Diego fan. How do you think anybody involved from either side of the border raised or lowered their stock in their national team selectors' eyes just based upon this one most important of matches?
Well, with the Rugby World Cup training roster already out, that's kind of hard to gauge, whose stock, may have risen or fell. I think Sam Luching didn't have the flashiest game, but I think he solidified himself a little bit more as like just a pretty solid player, and I think there's a lot of people excited to see him on this squad. So I'll go with Sam Luching, I guess, in terms of raising stock.
You look at, I mean, I don't think anyone's stock lowered, if that makes any sense. I think
that's kind of where I was at.
I think there was some stock that got lifted. Nakai Penny in this game was really good. Reichert Hadding definitely raised his stock. I mean, he did get called in.
Reichert is like one of the best players in the league and has been like all season.
Oh, yeah.
Could his stock have gone any higher just from one game?
Well, you just go. He last week before the roster was published, he had a really good game. Roster gets published, he has another really good game. So I think that for someone who was uncapped and just became eligible to be capped by the Eagles, there was no letdown at all. For him, so that's where I think Nick Boyer, who may have raised his stock some, but I don't believe he was called up. Maybe unless I'm completely off here. Actually, I have that somewhere. Give me a minute. I think he was, because there's 8 guys on the Legion who were called up.
I literally closed the tab that had the whole training roster like 2 minutes ago because I don't know.
Yeah, I have this whole thing like filtered from when I like did all the numbers for I'm sorry guys, wasting time. I just want to be correct here. I don't want to I don't want to say that Nick Boyer wasn't called up, but I think at wing he has really shown how versatile he is. Let's see. Let's go to Bryce.
Well, I mean, he's not only is he effective wing, he was one of the better scrum halves when he was, rocking it. He was. He was effective.
Like, let's see here.
Not. People listening to on SoundCloud and Spotify are like, "What the hell's going on with this long pause?" That's why I'm just gonna keep on.
No.
I do not see him.
Yeah, he's not on the list. Well,
one person who is on the list, Jameson Fa'ana Schultz. People have inquired online as to how he was U.S. eligible. So he has a father from California, and thus he has a USA passport. So big shout out to Schultz, baby! Congratulations on the selection.
So yeah, that would be one guy who I think may have raised his stock towards selection should anyone become unhealthy for the PNC or the Rugby World Cup, because he has shown that he's very versatile this season. He can play 10, 9, blindside wing. He could probably slot in at center. He's the size of a 6. So there you go.
All right. Next up, Blur and Ski. Seeing as this season is over, it's never too early for next season predictions. So, which 3 teams from each conference will miss out on playoffs and why?
Ooh, it can always be too early, especially when we turn out to be wrong.
Let's see. In the West, hard to go against Liam's Utah, Austin, and Glendale piece in the West. Although
Go ahead and give it away and spoil my prediction.
Yeah. In the East, I think it's interesting. I think Atlanta could definitely make the playoffs because maybe I'm just throwing all my eggs behind the Scott Lawrence hype train. Choo-choo! Oh, no.
Yeah, so for my prediction, missing out on the playoffs from the East, DC, Atlanta, Rugby United, New York. I was almost with Aaron in that, ATL, like they're looking to have some good pieces. They're looking to have a really good coaching structure. It's just, if I pick against NOLA, there's so many of their fans who are viewers of this show that I worry what it might do to our fan base. For the West, Utah, Austin, and Glendale missing out on the playoffs. I'm seeing that as pretty likely.
I guess we'll have to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another one from Blur. Similarly, next year there's going to be 6 games a week every week. So what are the arrangements and what would you like the arrangements to be? I'm a little fuzzy on this one. I think, are we talking on the broadcast?
So
the term arrangements can mean a lot of things.
The question,
like, I have an arrangement with my masseuse, for instance.
did we get? I think so. CJ, the fan, sort of. The questions sort of go into it. I think it will be similar to this year. I think we've given everyone the data that with our broadcast partners that we can have better windows for time. So I really think you're going to see a lot. It would be, it make things sort of difficult if you put all the games on Sunday, but college rugby really isn't a huge commercial product. So I think you'll see a lot of, since it's between 5 and 6 games a week, probably a lot of games on Saturday, something like a 1-3-2 split. That varies between 3 and 2 on Sunday and Saturday that get flipped ever so often.
Yeah.
Unless you were talking broadcast arrangements, I think there was a lot of, fan requests to go back to the way it was in season 1, which is CBS SN and ESPN Plus rather than 9news.com.
9news.com. Again, we said this a few weeks ago. No hate on 9news.com. Thank you guys for carrying rugby.
That was cool. I was about it. It was free. It was put on free, so no problem there. It's just central locations make life a little bit easier for the common fan. I am definitely not a common fan.
Yeah, well, because when they talk about there's going to be 6 games every week, we're going to watch all 6 of those games every week, whether we want to or not. The one thing I do know, there's only going to be 1 bye week per team. This is moderately unconfirmed, I guess you could say. So there's definitely going to be some stacking of games, I think, in certain time slots. So you just got to expect that.
So while we're on the subject, I think I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead straight to CJ's question because it's absolutely related. So CJ the fan on Twitter, or Seawolves fandom, how much do you know about the 2020 schedule? We believe it starts in February, Saturday, Sunday games.
It starts in February, ends a little bit later. I think it ends the next week. Really? I think that's what it ends the last weekend in June. I might be completely wrong on there.
Yeah.
And you're going to get Sunday games. If people don't like Sunday games, there's too many games to play them all on Saturday, and this is not the Premiership. You're just going to get Sunday games because it's content to put on with your broadcast partners. I would like to see just one game on Friday. That would be me. And I would like Friday night rugby, a bit like Sunday night rugby, to become those sort of like in effect those commercial successes that the NFL has with like not Thursday night football, but with Sunday night football. So Sunday night rugby.
So like in the sense, like they make sure maybe they shouldn't put Utah versus Austin in a Friday night slot, but rather like San Diego, Rooney, or like Seattle versus one of the other better teams.
Yeah. So that would be really cool to be able to have flexibility with your broadcast timing to where, midway through the season, like the NFL does, how they switch the games around because certain teams are doing a whole lot better. Usually,
flexing.
You can't do that with, say, Monday Night Football. You can't really move those around, but they move time slots usually on Sundays. If something changes for Sunday Night Football, you get Sunday Night Football the better game.
Mm-hmm. Especially with playoff implication matches too.
So,
okay. Back to Blur. X-Blade contract ends this year, I believe. I absolutely love the variation and individuality they've put into all the designs. Any idea if it's going to be a straightforward renewal, or if they're going with one of the awful generic firms like Adidas?
I'm gonna have to disagree in that all these uniforms are great and individual because they're just not. I mean, like obviously San Diego's got some they had those like really cool white uniforms last year. I like the whole Seattle skyline on the Seawolves jerseys. But like, can you really tell me that Utah's jerseys look like are that great?
Utah's jerseys last year were dope.
Yeah.
Like those were awesome.
And like Toronto, I cannot get over how much I hate Toronto's branding. Like nothing against the team, but I hate the uniforms. I hate the logo. Yeah, it's just not good.
I think I remember talking to Scott Green about the shorts. So the shorts fit interestingly. Like if you get the two big ones, they show you they make it look like you have a bit extra up front, which maybe for Scott Green that's not bad. Because he's got some balls anyways. But if you
not as big as Joe Peterson's though.
Oh no,
Joe Peterson's are hanging out the freaking shorts, dude. It's like Zdeno Chara getting permission for a larger hockey stick. He has to get longer shorts, but you don't really notice it all that much.
But I like the designs of like most of the teams. I know that right now, Canterbury. It looks like Canterbury is going to be at least in the preseason. Canterbury is kitting out, and same with Adidas is kitting out DC. And what I want to see, and this is where it gets interesting, because if you look at the Free Jacks preseason stuff, it's unbranded. There's no brand on it. I have no idea who makes that stuff. And there's tons of manufacturers that are even domestic that you can get unbranded rugby kit. So, I like, and Americans in general really like the one kit supplier. That's what we do here. My personal opinion, and this is like, it's my personal opinion, I don't really want to see 12 different kit suppliers in this league. Whether that means we go to, you take the whole league to Adidas or you take the whole league to Canterbury. I want cool uniforms like the Seattle Skyline. That is a great kit.
Mm-hmm.
I want stuff like that. Or the home whites of NOLA. Those are really cool. Stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm sure they're all in discussions because now X-Blades has their brand pushed on national television in America. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Bobby Digital 24. Which team has the most experience and who has the oldest average age players?
I don't know. Aaron?
Seattle was one of the Seattle. I think Seattle was the oldest team last year, and I think they might be the oldest team this year. To be honest, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that, but all the teams have a young enough core to where they can move out their old hands over time, because some of these guys are definitely going to retire on every single team. Like there will be guys that do retire this offseason that haven't announced retirement.
I actually think I remember, like down in Houston, them mentioning that they might that they're one of the youngest teams in the league, if not the youngest.
So,
thanks a lot, Kieran.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, I think Seattle or New Orleans might have skewed it the other direction just because they had like what was one dude like 50 or something ridiculous like that.
But they also have
out and alone.
They also have like 23-year-olds too. So I think they're kind of in the middle. Yeah, Silver Fox Taylor Howden actually isn't the oldest man on that team.
Taylor's only like 36 though, isn't he?
Yeah. Hubert Biden's at 37 is the oldest guy on the New Orleans Gold.
Hubie doobie.
So,
all right, Rocco 604. What happened to the Vancouver expansion?
They were found frozen in a glacier, and it turns out that Brian Ray was chipping off it to put ice in his drinks. he was the one who discovered them. He was like, "Holy shit! This is shiver me timbers there, eh?"
I think that's accurate. Yeah. I don't know.
We don't know what happened to the Vancouver expansion team. That's the answer right there.
He's dead, Jim.
Yeah. Hit up Brian Ray at Ray's Rugby on Twitter and bombard him with those questions. I'm sure he loves answering them 20 times a day.
Final question of the night. At the real Ryan _H. This is a Twitter question.
Thank God I thought it was the fake Ryan. I was like, not this asshole again. Not this guy again. Sorry.
It's after 10 o'clock. You can swear.
Yeah, right.
Okay, the real Ryan _H. Of the new teams in 2020, who do you think will hit the ground running and who will struggle? This is kind of similar to what we asked earlier, actually.
New England has a really good core of local talent, and they have more signees coming. It's a pretty attractive destination right now for a team. I think, So I think New England's going to be seeing success early on the pitch, or at least just as much success as Rooney or Toronto experienced. And I believe DC is going to struggle the most right out of the gate.
Yeah, I think just based on what I've seen, I think DC will get a lot of people in the gate, but they will struggle out of the gate.
Kind of like Utah. Great turnout at the games.
Yeah. Utah gets tons of people out. Like they do a great job up there. That's probably one of the. I think I said this to some guys. I was like, there's probably one team that has a history, not the team itself, but the state has a history of packing Rio Tinto with thousands of people for a college game. So if Utah was somehow in the final and this thing was held at Rio Tinto,
it would have been off the chain.
You would have gotten over 10,000 people. It would have been cool. But
it also would have been deafening.
So, yeah, right.
They have cowbells. They handed out cowbells in season 1 and they handed out cowbells in season 2. So
because not a single person in all of sports finds cowbells annoying. It's just universally loved everywhere.
Yeah.
Were there vuvuzelas at the game yesterday?
Yeah, so
Vuvuwata?
vuvuzelas. It's like they were sold at the South Africa World Cup a couple years ago.
What are they?
They're like horns that you go.
Oh, those things. Yeah.
They didn't have as many drums this time, which I will say, as far as creating a really awesome environment when Brock Stoller went up to kick and you suddenly saw 2,000 thumbs be stuck out and down, that was a super cool picture. That was awesome. We had another question on the Twitters, Corey. I'm going to pull this up, guys. From Isaac.
Oh, I missed one.
From Isaac Anderson, I think. Isaac Anderson. When roughly will the 2020 schedule be released? November-ish? I think it was October, right? Last year? Is that about right?
It's been released internally.
Well, I don't think it's really done.
It's not solidified, but preliminary versions of it. I was just based on conversations I was having.
This thing's gonna get. Well, I mean, the last one was also done pretty early too, and then as things go, things change all the freaking time. So I think it was like the external release was October last year, so I think look for October-ish release after the World Cup. Let's go with that.
Before the Rise of Skywalker, it will be released.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So there'll be one thing we have to look forward to in that season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, is that it, guys?
Yeah. Holy crap! I think it is.
All right. Final thoughts. What do you want to share?
So I will be on the ground to cover the Super Series. Two of the 5, I guess, rounds. The 28th, which is a Friday. Wow, that's gonna be a crazy day. We're going to get up at 5, drive straight to Chula Vista to watch the England versus USA game, and then I think it's France versus New Zealand is the second game, and then on a long weekend, the 4th of July weekend, I'm going to go see my parents in LA, and then we'll drive down to San Diego and see the women play. No, the USA women are on a bye, but we will see the second round of the Super Series. So we'll get some ladies / women / girls. I mean, some of these young women, I guess, would be referred to as girls because you've got some very young and talented collegians on the training squad for the Women's Super Series. And I don't know, we'll figure it out internally if we're back next week to sort of cover the World Cup stuff, but we'll get that out. Especially we're going to take a break. We'll try to get you some interview stuff, but we need to take like 3 weeks off. So.
Yeah, I think we could all use a break. I need to sleep for like 3 days. I went to northern New England for a few days, like trapeze throughout Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine and stuff like that. And my body just needs me to stop moving and watch some Blacklist. And that's what I intend to do.
Another question from a member of the EOD family, the Earful of Dirt Enterprise, from
the Cabal.
The Cabal, one of the hosts of En La Mele Rugby Podcast, Rugby en Español, Rafael Delgadillo, asked, was this final the best rugby game ever played on U.S. soil? As far as senior rugby is concerned, like not college?
Huns versus Nyack 2 years ago.
No, not even close, man.
I don't know. I thought that was a great game.
Yeah. So I would say domestic American games. I mean, this was as good as you could get for a quality and intensity level of game. I would say yeah. Because the only games that might be better than this were in the 80s in the Michelob Cup. and I wasn't alive. There you go.
Yep.
I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, domestic
Scotland, U.S.
So domestic rugby. Scotland, U.S. was the greatest test match played on U.S. soil by the Eagles. So there is a difference.
For all we know, there was like an untelevised like D2 game somewhere far in the mountains of the Midwest, or there's no mountains in the Midwest. Somewhere in the
wait. The tape of the first pro rugby game.
Yeah. Doug Schrodinger's vault with all the money he was supposed to pay players.
So yeah. We're going to take some type of break. I don't know if we'll be back next week, but we will give you content from the Pacific Nations Cup and some content for the Super Series. If you are in SoCal, or if you are going to SoCal for some summerish times, I highly encourage you. The Super Series is quite affordable. On a per day basis, you get 2 test matches for $19 in each round. So you're in San Diego and you're a rugby fan, support the ladies, support the women. I'm gonna get smacked for, I don't know, some people. I don't know.
All right, thank you, Aaron, for that plug. Liam, enjoy the Blacklist. Aaron, enjoy the Super Series. So couple quick housekeeping things. Quick reminder that once again we are hosting this fundraiser just for the next few weeks, and like I said, we just really appreciate you guys supporting us and buying in and helping us with what we do. But we're going to keep doing what we do, whether you're able to chip in or not. So don't worry, this is not a, oh my God, we're going to shut down next week if you don't give money. We're still going to be here doing our thing. We're just asking our friends to kind of help carry that weight a little bit. So please consider donating if you have a chance to. And I think that's it. On our way out, please note, all opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the hosts and the guests and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or practices of Major League Rugby teams or the league. Aaron Castro is employed by Major League Rugby, and Liam Poach is employed by the West Houston Lions and the Houston SaberCats. Be sure to tune in next week. We will probably be live on YouTube Monday night and available on your favorite podcast platform each and every Wednesday morning. If you like what we do, please subscribe to our YouTube and iTunes feeds. It helps other folks find us. And be sure to share your own news, views, and abuse with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. And until we see you again, well, if there's rugby to be found, go out and find it. Take care, everybody.